Hey everyone, my name is Matt Mitchell and I'm the owner of Mitchell Event Planning. I'm a master certified wedding planner and ambassador through the Bridal Society, which is the leading wedding planning certification program in the world and the largest membership of certified wedding planners and venues. We at the Bridal Society know how important hiring an educated wedding planner or coordinator is. The Bridal Society is a wedding planner lifestyle membership and certification program focused on raising the standards in the industry and ensuring that all couples have an opportunity to have the wedding day of their dreams. Today, we are back for episode 3 of It Takes Two. If you missed last month's interview with Jacob Deaton, be sure to check it out. I will link it above and include the link in the show notes below. Speaking of missing an episode, be sure to subscribe to my channel and select the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Today, I am talking to Monica Gunderlock, owner of Strike a Pose Atlanta. So welcome, Monica. How are you doing on this second day of fall?
Oh, I am great. I am loving this weather. Oh my goodness. It's
yes,
so fabulous. I'm so excited for fall.
It is literally my favorite time of the year. Pumpkin everything. The weather is just right. You can bring out the sweaters and yeah, I love it.
And it's wedding season.
We are knee deep in wedding season, which is exactly what we'll be talking about today. So if you don't mind, take it away and tell us a little bit about your company.
All righty. Well, like you said, I own Strike a Pose Atlanta. We do photo booths and roaming photography at events. And so more specifically for you today, since we don't do roaming photography at weddings, so we're your photo booth vendor. It's a whole lot of fun. We bring a new entertainment element to the weddings, and all of your guests get a take-home gift with, our service. And on top of that, for most of our wedding clients, they also take home an album where every guest has signed a fun note next to their picture. It's just super fun. It encapsulates the moment and people having fun and being silly. And I tell folks it's like the best wedding card you could get with our album, because there's this handwritten note with their photo at the moment. It's just so special. And we just have so much fun with our clients.
I agree. Yeah, I remember the past wedding that we worked together. Yeah, it was a very nice leather-bound album that had the couple, their strip with, some of their fun photos. And then, all their guests got to paste that into that book and then write them a nice note. So it'll be awesome to look back on that, to remember the night and see how much fun everyone was having. So tell me what inspired you to enter the wedding industry?
Well, kind of funny, and maybe I don't even know if I should say this, but I'll say it. I do that sometimes. I never wanted a wedding. That was never me growing up. I wasn't the girl that planned that sort of thing. And heck, I didn't even have a wedding. Well, I did, but it was 20 people. It was real intimate. But my husband owns and manages and played in a wedding band. And whenever they would go to a really fun location like New Orleans or Hilton Head or basically any beach, that was a good reason for me to go to the beach. So I attended a bunch of weddings and I got to see him play. And I mean, who doesn't love attending a wedding? It's so much fun. And I was traveling with him quite a bit and seeing all these beautiful weddings. It is a little awkward being a wedding guest when you don't know anybody at the wedding. So I kind of just got to thinking like, what could I do that people would pay me to be here? I spent 20 years in the restaurant industry. I love working with people. In 20 years of working in the industry, you're celebrating birthdays and anniversaries and all of these highlights, jobs. I love celebrating with people, and I love just being around them and being a part of their day. In high school and college, I was huge into photography, took a bunch of classes, and never really wanted it to be my career. But after going to all of these weddings and seeing some really cool photo booths, I thought, well, that might be something I could really get into. Granted, that was a long time ago. I won't date myself. There wasn't digital cameras when I was in college. So I just went back. I studied a bunch about the business and learned all about newer photography and, mirrorless cameras, and really looked into what it would look like to start that business for myself. And what I thought might be a side job was a significant amount of work. And
Yes.
it turned into a full-time job for me. And I'm just so lucky that everything turned out the way it did. And I just have a blast. I love what I do.
Yes, and I can tell when I look over there on wedding day and see you having fun with the guests. It's always a treat. So, tell me one thing that maybe you wish you would have known before popping into the wedding space. Is there any kind of hurdles or bumps in the road that you hit when you first got into the space?
No, things I wish I'd known. I thought I was on my own doing that. I thought it was me against the world. And the more that I interact with folks like you or Facebook groups of these wedding professionals, it is so much more community over competition, right? I've met a lot of other photo booth owners in Atlanta. There, I think, are a million.
Yes, I think you're right.
But we've made really great connections, and we work well with each other, and we can bounce ideas off of each other, and work together to ensure that, all of our clients are really well taken care of. If I'm booked, I'm sending them business and vice versa, because, no just isn't a good answer. So if I can tell them this is a really great company in a sea of other vendors, these are the guys that I recommend, is important to me. So I really wish I had known that. And it's still something I need to work on and just get out there and get to know more vendors.
Yeah, that's really amazing that you have that experience too, because I was worried too getting into this space, because as you know, there's a million different wedding planners out there as well, right? And they all have their own kind of specialties, or they might do this and others don't do that, so it can be very confusing to folks to know where to go. So it's awesome to have those connections, and that's one of the reasons I joined the Bridal Society, which is what I mentioned in the intro today is, we are technically competition, right? We all are competing for wedding clients, but it's so much more of a community where we lift each other up, encourage each other, help educate one another. And so I'm so excited to hear that you have that within your space in the industry as well. So that's awesome. What about is there any myths that are out there in regards to photo booths that people should steer clear of or get out of their heads?
Well, I would say there's definitely like two big ones. The first one would be that like every photo booth is the same, which it certainly isn't. So folks might just be like, well, there's a photo booth for this much and there's a photo booth for that much. And they might pick the lowest guy because they're all the same. And they're most definitely not. That would be like saying that all restaurants are the same. And sometimes you want Taco Bell and sometimes you want Ruth's Chris.
That's right.
And there's reasons for that, but we're definitely not all the same. I think it's important to ask a lot of questions, tell people what you're looking for, what you're expecting, and then get on the same page with that, because there are so many options. And, depending on what you're looking for, we might be the perfect company for you, but we might not be. I think the second myth, and this is through, I think, the wedding industry, is that I could do it myself for cheaper.
Yep.
And it's just not that case with so many things. I wish I could put florals together like some of the weddings I've been to, and I can't. And so it's not something that I'm going to waste my time or my efforts doing when I've got 1,000 other things to plan for an event. And with a photo booth, it's the same thing. Like, I've been to plenty of events, and even my own friends' weddings, where they're like, we just want you to be a guest today. We don't want you to think about anything. And I show up and I'm like, what have you done?
Yeah.
By the time you buy a backdrop and a backdrop stand and props and, a camera and, all of these components, you've spent almost as much as had you just rented a professional in the first place. And what you might get your output from your DIY photo booth versus what you get with me, I mean, there's no comparison. So you just worked a whole lot to save yourself a buck, and it's just not worth it. So
I
yeah,
agree.
the
Yeah.
DIY, just sometimes time is money. And if you're spending a whole lot of money on something that you're not getting a great return on your investment, the output of what you're going to get from a Polaroid camera versus what you're going to get from my cameras and my professional printers are not comparable.
Yep. And as you mentioned, that's one thing that you can't get back, right? Is time. That is a non-renewable resource. So once it's spent, it is spent. So yeah, that's something that we educate clients on all the time too in the planning profession, because a lot of people are like, well, I enjoy the planning aspect of it. And that's okay. Like being educated or organized is great, but like really knowing what are some of those, kind of minor details that you really need to think about. And if you don't have experience with planning, these big style events, then it's a good possibility that you're going to miss those things. And then yeah, absolutely, you want to be a guest at your own wedding, right? You don't want to have to be working the photo booth or lining up your bridal party as you're getting ready to walk down the aisle. So yeah, it's always best to leave it to the professionals for sure. Now, I know that you do amazing work, and I have never had a bad comment in regards to your services, but what's the best compliment that you've received regarding your work?
When I first started, I think my best compliment, and I still get it, is this is the best photo booth I've ever seen. And obviously that's a huge compliment to what we do.
Yes.
And that used to just blow me away. And then it kind of, as time goes on, the best compliment is that not only are they telling you in person, but then they're going online and they're leaving you a review. Reviews are really stinking hard to get.
Yeah,
At least the good ones, right?
that's
If
right.
somebody's really mad about something, they'll be quick to say something. But when people are happy, they're like, that was cool, and they go on. So when, especially I'll see that somebody left me a review. This was the highlight of my wedding. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's huge, right? But then they thought to go on and tell, and you see that they've only ever done 2 reviews ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they were impressed enough with us to tell the world. And that means so much to me. But now, as I grow more seasoned with the years, a huge compliment is when a planner gives me those same compliments. But not only that, but when a planner then tells their clients, hey, you want a photo booth, this is who you go to. That's huge. And that's such an honor because these are professionals. You maybe only go to a handful of weddings. Even a year is a lot for some people. And so what they think is great might not, be if you don't have much to compare it to. But when a planner who's doing several weddings a weekend says, this is the guy I work with, that is just like, that's the best compliment. That and getting multiple family members. I've done cousins' weddings and sisters' weddings. And when you see the same folks over and over, it's just, I feel like part of the family sometimes. And it's just so much fun to have that comfort and the joy that they have from what you bring to the table. A few weeks back, I walked into a wedding and I recognize, there's a gentleman who I assumed was the groom. And I'm going, that must be the groom, because they send me, I see their invitations and their wedding websites. So I really do already feel like I know them before I come. And this gentleman was standing there and all handsome and dressed up. And I'm like, that must be the groom. And he looks familiar because I've seen his pictures. Well, then in walked not the bride, and he kissed her. And I'm going, wait a minute. I hope that's not the groom. And it was a couple that I had done their wedding, the year before.
Oh, wow.
So it was just so fun to see folks from the past. And yeah, we told our friend that they have to use you. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Referral's the best compliment.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's one of my favorite things too. Is and even like if it's not a family member, if it's someone in the bridal party that's getting married, further on down the road, I've had that happen. Which they saw you in action, they were there
Yeah.
part of the day, and reaching back out to you to use your service is always wonderful. So you mentioned, and I know, right? So we took 2020 off. We'll just say that, and now we're back with a big old boom. So there may be some outliers there, but about how many weddings a year do you typically take?
We typically do, I would say, a minimum of 50, which is
Wow,
quite a
yeah,
bit. There's only so many Saturdays a year.
that's right.
So, luckily with my business, I can have multiple photo booths and do multiple weddings a year or a day. So it's right around the 50 mark. We stay pretty busy with our weddings. And then we also do, school events and corporate events and things like that. But on the wedding side, it's about half of the business.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, that's awesome. I feel you. Yeah, there are some lulls in the planning season. Definitely, we're knee deep in wedding season now. Yeah, it kind of tapers off when we get into engagement season, and sometimes in the heat of the summer, we'll calm down
Yeah.
a little bit. So, and then you have to take time for yourself too. So you take those weekends off that you need it. But yeah, that's amazing that you have that ability to do whatever you need to do, whether it's just one a weekend, two a weekend, or so on and so forth. So now, of those that you work with, I'm sure you have some out there that don't have a planner at all, that they are just doing it by themselves. Tell me about that experience as a vendor on your side. Like, what does that feel like to you?
It just creates so much more work for me. Um, I'll get 10 times the emails, 10 times the questions. So when there's not a great planner or a certified planner, it's a lot more work on my end. Which again, it's one of those time things. I think like for the bride, if they're spending, the bride, or I get a lot of the bride's moms or sometimes the groom's moms. And my favorite, even I'll get grooms that are doing this.
Yeah,
I'm like, go guy, that's
yeah,
awesome. I just hope he's like, that just says he's probably going to be really great in the marriage too, right? Real involved,
right.
which I love.
Involved.
So I really love when the grooms are involved. But it says to me, if they're spending that much time with me and they've got 10 other vendors they're dealing with, I mean, this is consuming their life.
Yeah,
And time is money, right? There are a few things I think that are so important. One is peace of mind, but your time and photos. I think photos
yeah,
are real important. And then having a good planner to coordinate everything for you is huge. It makes
yeah.
my job easier, which says to me it makes everybody else's job easier.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, there's always something that happens at weddings, right? And so if you can think of one, you don't have to, but think of your past weddings, and if there's a mishap that maybe took place because a planner wasn't happen or wasn't hired, or maybe where a planner was able to save the day because they were there.
Man, I wish I had a good story for this, but maybe that's a good thing that I don't, right?
Yeah.
It says that I've worked with enough planners that I think if you're good, you can put out those fires because there will
That's
always
right.
be something. But if you're real good, you're not letting those fires happen. You're putting them out before they start, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I'll see just, little things here and there. The cake was delivered, but the flowers for the cake that the florist left are nowhere to be found, or the florist has already left. The cake delivery person's left, but the cake has no flowers on it, because there was no coordination of who was responsible for that. A
Yeah.
good planner would have had that already set in stone, and it's just not something that gets overlooked. For me, the biggest thing is power.
Oh, yes.
So often I'll show up at a venue, and if it's the mom of the bride who obviously can't meet me because she's getting ready to walk down the aisle, and they're like, the photo booth's over here, and there's no power anywhere.
Mm.
And people are surprised. They're like, "Oh, what do you need a plug for?" I'm like, only my light and my printer and my other light and my camera. Oh, the computer. Just a couple things. I can't function without that. But I think if I'm put in a situation where they didn't think that I needed electricity, even though it's in the contract that I sent them and the email that I sent them and the follow-up email that I sent them, and they've missed that like most basic thing, I'm thinking they have missed 100 other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me being, the A-type personality, I'm thinking if the bride is anything like me, she's noticed the 100 things that aren't the way she expected it. And
Right.
instead of enjoying her day, she's stressed out going, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. And that's just no way to enjoy your wedding. So having somebody that handles all of that for you and has the know-how, the photo booth needs some power, or, to even just give us load-in instructions.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
so important.
You worked with me before. I always like to, as much as I can, give a personal call out to the vendors and say, hey, I'm just working on our master timeline here. Are there any needs that you have from us? Do we need a table? Do we need a linen? Or are you taking care of those? Are there things like power that you need? Do we need a vendor meal? Like all those things, we're making sure that we are. What you said, yes, they're in your contract, right? But we like to double check, triple check on our end, right? Make sure that
Mhm.
nothing's being missed. And then, then once we do that with all of our vendors, then we can send out that load in and email that provides everyone with the master timeline of the day or their personalized timeline. They get a view of the floor plan, which will tell you as a vendor where you need to set up, and provides all the information that they need for the day to make sure that everyone is showing up and ready to go and being successful. So I'm glad that you have definitely not had any mishaps, or at least have averted those until now. So and let's see. I think we have another wedding coming up here in a couple weeks in Serenby. So I'm excited for that one. We did the walkthrough. I think it was last week actually. So so I'll be contacting you again soon for that.
I'm so glad that I have you for Serenby because it's a tricky venue, right?
Yeah.
And just understanding all the know-how of that type of outside venue. I could tell you a lot of stories. You should interview my husband. He's got some
Yeah.
stories of bands having to leave an entire wedding
Gosh.
because they didn't plan things properly. But yeah, Serenby will be real fun. And I am so grateful that you are the planner for that.
Well, that's amazing. So we are almost at time. If you wouldn't mind just sharing with everyone how they can get in touch with you, maybe Instagram, Facebook, email, whatever is most convenient for you.
My website has all my contact information. So that would be the best way to go. It's strikeaposeatl.com. And from there, you can find everything right down to our phone number. I take a text any time of day. It's real important to me that I get back with my clients as quickly as possible. We've got all our social media linked there as well. So again, that's strikeaposeatl.com.
And you make it really easy for your clients to inquire. So I know that you have a really nice form on your website that they can just put in all their event details. You can quickly send over a proposal for their day, and then they have all the knowledge that they need to make a hiring decision at that point. So is that how you would typically say that people need to inquire or reach out to you? Is just use your contact form?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the greatest way. And we just get a little bit of information from you, the location, the date, and that really helps us get the right information to give you the right quote, because a Saturday is going to be a whole lot different than a Monday, and a wedding is different than a corporate event. So we just like to gather a little bit of information from you, and then we can get you all the details that way.
Well, perfect. Well, I'll be sure to include all of your information in our show notes so that everyone can quickly get to those. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
You
Um,
too.
yeah, well, thanks so much. If you're listening today and are interested in earning your certification in wedding planning, the Bridal Society is the very best decision that you could ever make. The members of this organization feel more like family than colleagues. The Bridal Society provides lifetime free membership once you complete your certification, which includes countless benefits. You can visit www.thebridalsociety.com for more information. If you would like to receive an exclusive discount, be sure to send me a message. Again, my name is Matt Mitchell, owner of Mitchell Event Planning. Join me next month as I interview another fantastic wedding professional.